Let's go straight to Steve Reed, Housing Secretary, for now at least. Good morning to you, Steve.
Good morning, good to be with you.
Great to have you with us. You are one of the last standing stalwart defenders of Keir Starmer. Do you regret the way he was forced out of office?
Well, I've been a member of the Labour Party for over 40 years, and I always want to see Labour governments in power and Labour doing well. And I think we owe Keir Starmer a debt of gratitude, because 6 years ago, when he became leader of the Labour Party, we just experienced our worst election defeat for a century, and people said Labour could never win again, let alone in a single term. And yet, 5 years later, we won a landslide majority, and then we're now in government. Now, Keir took a decision on Monday that he was going to stand down in that speech that he gave outside Downing Street. So it's in the nature of a parliamentary democracy. The MPs will nominate who they want to be our new leader. I'll be backing Andy Burnham. I think the majority of my colleagues will be doing exactly the same. And I hope we can have a very orderly and swift transition to Andy as our new Prime Minister. And in the interim, we remain focused on doing the job the public sent us here to do, and that is changing this country for the better.
But the public looking at this will say that
Keir making on vagrancy.
But the public looking at this will say that Keir Starmer came to power promising to end all the turmoil that we saw under the Conservatives. He's only been in power for a couple of years, and he's out already.
Yeah, but compare this to what happened under the Conservatives. You saw Boris Johnson forced to resign by resignations from nearly all of his senior ministers after he was found to have been allowing parties to be held during the lockdown in number 10 Downing Street, one of them the night before the Queen buried her husband of 70 years. A very different situation now, where we are going through what I believe will be a very swift and orderly transition to a new Prime Minister, and at no point will our focus be taken off delivering for the country. We had new housing stats out just this week that shows the amount of social housing we're building has gone up 25% this year compared to last year, and last year we built more than we built for 40 years.
But you're still a very long way short, even on that, Steve.
Throughout this,
as you've mentioned it, even on that, you are well short of where you need to be, and we've had a report out in the last couple of weeks from where you need to be to hit that overall figure of 1.5 million new homes.
Yep, and for as long as I've been coming on your show, I've been pointing out to people it was never going to be the case that you get elected on the Thursday and on the Friday house building increases. We've had to change the legislation to get planning barriers out of the way. We have to change the regulations that were holding back housing. Those changes came into force earlier this year. Now we are seeing an increase in house building. That will continue through this Parliament, and we will hit our target by the end of it. It was never going to be equal amounts in every single year of those 5 years. It was always going to ratchet up as we got towards the end, because it is in the nature of changing the system that it then delivers faster change toward the ends of that period. But as I say, 25% more this year compared to last year, and last year the biggest number of social homes in any one year for 40 years, so we're on track.
Well, while you're talking about your area of policy, you're announcing today that you're scrapping the Vagrancy Act, which criminalises rough sleeping. But the record on homelessness is not good, is it? I'm looking at figures that show that there are now 176,000 children homeless in temporary accommodation. And homelessness rose to a record level in the last few months.
Yeah, that's why we're focused on building those new social and affordable homes. So the previous government scrapped housing targets. They weren't building them, and now there are not homes to put people in. Now, people will appreciate it takes quite a long time to get the planning application, get the spades in the ground, and then you put the bricks in to make those homes. But we built last year more council and social homes in 1 year than in any year for the previous 40 years when records began. It is as those homes get built and as homeless families are moved into them that we will see homelessness start to fall. So those two things are linked. And you mentioned the vagrancy rules as well. This is a Victoria-era legislation dating from 1832, nearly 200 years ago, that criminalise people who are sleeping rough. Now, people who are sleeping rough on the streets have had terrible problems in their lives. Many of them have got mental ill health. Many of them have got drug and alcohol addictions. Many of them are care leavers or even forces veterans. Those people deserve to have the problems in their life sorted out with them, and then be housed, not to be criminalised and sent to prison. So we're repealing that legislation. We've got £3.5 billion investing in support to get homeless people off the streets and families out of temporary accommodation, and building those homes mean that we've got somewhere to put them, and you will continue to see that change going in the right direction throughout this government.
You said a moment ago that you are now supporting Andy Burnham, and we only had to look at that picture earlier in the week to see how many other Labour MPs are desperately keen to get on the right side of the incoming new leader. But are you not concerned about the way that he is suddenly sweeping in, and it looks very unlikely that there will be even a contest within the Labour Party? So he won't even have a mandate from within the Labour Party. I'm seeing some quotes yesterday from other senior ministers, or perhaps it was from you, that wasn't named, saying that Andy Burnham's gone from being the butt of jokes 6 months ago when he was around at the Labour Party conference, burnishing his leadership credentials, to the impending Prime Minister. And this minister predicted that just a few months down the road there would be buyer's remorse. How much of a risk do you accept at his?
Well, first off, I don't brief the press anonymously. I come on your show and I say what I want to say.
And we're delighted to have you on, Steve.
And to your listeners. So thank you for that. So let's not have any implications otherwise. Thank you. I'm delighted that we're seeing Andy Burnham coming in with massive support from not just the MPs, but the whole of the Labour Party. And I'm out there speaking to Labour Party members as well. There is a groundswell of support for Andy Burnham. He is a Labour success story. He took on reform in Makerfield in an election many people said he couldn't win, and he won it by a landslide. So he can take on reform and he can defeat them. This party is going to unite behind Andy Burnham. We are not going to do what the Tories did and turn in on ourselves and talk to ourselves and leave the country without being listened to. I remain focused on my job, my colleagues remain focused on my job, and we will unite behind Andy Burnham to deliver the change faster that this country wants to see.
And one of the immediate challenges that Andy Burnham is going to face is going to be this defence investment plan, which he's going to inherit. I mean, isn't it a mistake for Keir Starmer to try and shuffle that out when it has such huge implications for the future, and given that we're already seeing so many senior figures in the military and beyond saying that this is simply way short of what's needed? We're told there's an extra billion and a half. We need perhaps 10 times that much, don't we?
Well, the government of this country continues without a break, so it's absolutely right that the current Prime Minister should come forward with the announcement he's going to make about ratcheting up defence spending even more. Now, when we came in at the general election, we inherited an army from the Conservatives at its smallest level since the Napoleonic Wars, so that was the starting point. We said we would increase defence spending to 2.5% of GDP over the course of this Parliament. We have exceeded that within only 2 years of that 5-year term. The announcements the Prime Minister is going to make about the defence investment plan, which is billions of pounds more, is in excess of the amount that we've already got in there. We recognise the threats this country faces. We recognise the need to invest in security and defence to keep this country safe, and we're taking action on it.
But let me put to you, Steve, let me put to you, though, so Tony Radakin, who was the chief of the Defence Staff until about 6 months ago, has pointed out that Keir Starmer made a commitment with Donald Trump there that along with other NATO allies, we would increase our defence spending to 3.5% of GDP by 2035. We haven't even got a date to get to 3% by 2030, which is a crucial milestone on that. We are way behind that. Tony Radakin is saying that we are now a laggard when it comes to the league table of defence spending within NATO. That is just not sufficient given the threats that we face as a country, is it?
We're a laggard because of what we inherited from the previous government, and we committed to getting that spending up to 2.5% of GDP by the end of this Parliament, which will be 2029. It's now 2026, and we have already exceeded that figure. And the
yes, but there's still no date for getting to 3%.
We're going to be excess of that.
There's still no date for getting to 3%, let alone 3.5%.
We said 2.5%, but we said, but you can keep bringing up more numbers. We said 2.5%.
No. These are commitments that Keir Starmer made at NATO.
Yes, by 2035. So it's ratcheting it up from the 2.3% we inherited to the 3.5 it will be. You have to go up in increments all the way through. We said 2.5% by the end of 2029. We are already at 2.6%, three years earlier, exceeding that figure. And next week, the Prime Minister's going to announce billions of pounds more. Now, you can't do it overnight because of the rate of change. You couldn't even spend all of that money straight away. We need to make sure that we're going to spend it on jobs here in the UK. I want to see shipbuilding on the Clyde. We want to see submarines up at Barrow in Furness. We want that to lead to British jobs as we keep the United Kingdom safer. But
Andy Burnham is going to. But can Andy Burnham look at this? Can Andy Burnham look at this and say, look, this is just not sufficient, given the threats that we face, that Sir Admiral Sir Tony Radakin is setting out once again in the Sunday Times today? Can Andy Burnham rewrite this, find significant increases, which is what all our armed forces need?
But you're talking as if we haven't already increased defence spending by more than any other government since the Second World War. And as I said earlier on, in 2 years we've already exceeded the figure we set ourselves for 5 years of this Parliament. So we are ratcheting up defence spending, and the defence investment plan that
and can Andy Burnham just rip that up when he comes to power?
Is billions of pounds ahead of that.
So can Andy Burnham?
Sure. I don't think Andy Burnham is planning to rip that up. I think Andy Burnham will want to be committed to this significant increase in defence spending that we've seen under this government. As I said earlier on, it's already the biggest increase since the Cold War. That is in over a generation. And the whole Labour Party is committed to that, because the first priority of any government is to keep the country safe. Now, we're way ahead of what we would spend. You're going to see billions of pounds more over the next week. The whole of the Labour Party is behind that, because it's how we keep our country safe, and that we are absolutely committed to doing.
Andy Burnham, King of the North, and he's talked a lot about devolving more power, more spending to the north of England. As MP for Streatham and Croydon North, do you share the concerns of many of your colleagues that that's not something that's going to play well with voters in other parts of the country?
I wrote a piece for The Guardian 10 years ago calling for a devolution revolution, and Andy Burnham has been calling for exactly the same thing. It is not just about devolving power and resources to the north of England, it is about devolving power and resources to every region of this country. There are people that I represent in Streatham and Croydon that feel they do not have a big enough say over the decisions that affect them. I want power put in their hands, just as I want power put in the hands of people up in Manchester. I gave a speech 2 weeks ago calling for precisely that. I gave a speech in Croydon just on Friday of last week calling for precisely that, and I am delighted that Andy Burnham is going to put rocket boosters underneath the devolution agenda that this government is already pursuing.
How difficult is it going to be, though, for Andy Burnham coming to power unelected? He hasn't been to the country, he hasn't even got a wider mandate from the Labour movement. Doesn't he need to call a general election if he's going to take any of the tough decisions which undoubtedly lie ahead?
I saw an opinion poll this week that showed the overwhelming majority, over 2/3 of the British public, do not want a general election. They want this government to get on and deliver the change we were elected to deliver 2 years ago. Andy is going to put rocket boosters under that. His devolution agenda, which I support to the hilt, 100%, will put more power in the regions of England so that we can tackle those grotesque economic inequalities that have been pulling this country apart for decades. That will benefit every single part of this country. I wholeheartedly support it. We'll have a general election within 3 years when the time comes, and we will stand on our record.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Steve Reed, Housing Secretary.
My pleasure. Thank you.